Should we do chips?
We can do chips, and I can sense in that, just in the way you said, shall we do chips?
What can you sense, Simon?
I can sense...
Okay, fine. So tell me on the basis of the way I said that, what I think about chips.
Okay, I think you said it like this. Shall we do chips?
Okay.
So I get disdain and I get an overtone of annoyance.
Okay.
And a little bit of anger.
Okay. So...
let's see.
You're just horribly on the money. So this is a big screen adaptation of a small screen series from, was it late 70s, early 80s, that I think pretty much everyone has forgotten. I do remember it, weirdly enough. I can't think why I remember it. That really bothers me that I do, but I do. So Michael Pena in the Eric Estrada role of Ponch, and here he is portrayed as a sex-addicted undercover agent sent to work with the motorcycle cops team. Meanwhile, Dax Shepard, who is the star and also the director, he plays a washed-up biker who now desperately wants to join the CHiPs, the California Highway Patrol, which don't have an...
Where's the I?
Well, that's how it works. Is it capital C, capital H, small I, capital P, small S? Because CHiPs doesn't sound... CHiPs sound like how you'd say it in New Zealand. Got some chips? Chips. Anyway,
chips in Siswati means excuse me.
Now, does it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, excuse me would be a much better title for this film. I want to play you a scene, and I want to. We did sort of discuss this before. This is an indicator. The film is really rubbish. I mean, really, really, really rubbish, and offensively rubbish in many ways. And just as an indication of it, here is a clip from early on, which is in which our central character is trying to get a job with the CHiPs. And these are, well, listen to the gags yourself and just tell me whether you think on any level these are funny or just flat out offensive.
None of these aptitude scores meet even the lowest standards for graduation. In fact, most of the disabled cadets scored much, much higher.
They did?
Yeah, even in marksmanship.
Well, I don't doubt that. I mean, disabled folks are doing a ton these days. Look at that Olympic runner with no legs. He killed his girlfriend even, you know? Not that that's an accomplishment, but still, it's impressive in its severity.
And then there is your physical. You've had 23 surgeries?
Yeah, I've had, feet, ankles, knees, shoulders. And I have a titanium humerus from, like, here to here. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, you can ride a motorcycle, I'll give you that.
Yes, ma'am. Like a
Okay, I'm on level with you, John. I like you.
Thank you.
You have nice eyes.
Thank you.
You remind me of my husband.
Thank you.
My husband, Ted.
He is really handsome.
That's the longest pause you've ever left, I think. I think the transmitter might have actually packed up in that gap.
And this underlying stream also of homophobia along with everything else. And here's the interesting thing. Firstly, that scene is a clip, which means they're sending that out as something that they think will encourage you to go and see the film. And secondly, when that scene happened in the screening that I was in, you've never heard a room go quiet. So quiet. Like, literally, people talk about, you can hear the moment that an audience, I mean, nobody was on its side, to be honest, at that point anyway, and that's fairly early on. It's rubbish, and it's a film which appears to have a completely tin ear for how obnoxious it is, for how grotesquely obnoxious it is. And it's not funny. It appears to have been directed by somebody who's actually really only interested in blowing things up and, making an action movie badly. And it starts with an incredibly homophobic scene, and then it moves through being sexist, being disableist, just like it's almost like it thinks that what it's doing is being edgy, and yet it doesn't. It's just just horrible rubbish. And I'm astonished. I'm genuinely astonished by
what's interesting about that clip was that we've all heard jokes about material that you'd think, I wish you hadn't told that joke because I don't think that's acceptable. However, I can see that in the construction of that joke, it's quite clever, and I can understand how that might have passed some kind of comedy test. But actually, not only was the subject matter offensive, it was
really offensive.
It was just
not funny.
It was just not funny on any level.
No. And it is, every now and then you do see something that you just think the sheer miscalculation of this, the sheer ineptitude of it is genuinely quite staggering. And I sat there and watched it with a full screening of critics, and I guarantee you, as we were coming out, there was looks on people's faces were like, were we really? Did that just happen? Was the film because you've now got this kind of post-ironic reboot of old TV. So, for example, the Starsky and Hutch movie, which were actually really good fun, and the 21 Jump Street movie and 22 Jump Street movie, which are taking these things and sort of doing something, putting an ironic twist on them and turning them into something which is actually quite funny. It's just appeared to be, and again, also, who on earth is it aimed at? I mean, I remember CHiPs, the TV series,
it's kind of like charming and family based, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastically innocuous. It was basically two blokes riding around on bikes in the sun, wasn't it? I suppose it was Baywatch with motorbikes or whatever it was, except without all. I mean, I never watched Baywatch, so I mean, imagine, but it's like that, isn't it? It's David Hasselhoff not running on a beach, but driving a bike. But I can't think why I remember it, because late 70s, I must have been watching television in the late 70s, early 80s, but I just remember it as being fantastically innocuous. And actually, the one thing you can say about this film is it does make the television series seem unbelievably accomplished. And it makes the television series seem like Ibsen. It's horrible.
Did Ibsen know Shostakovich?
He did.
Were they
Ibsen knew Shostakovich, and he said, "You know that?" He said,
"Nose. I like that."
He said,
nose.
"Oi, Ibsen, do you want a drink?" He went, "No, thanks. I've got one here."
Very good. Extraordinary comedy, by the way. I thought that was good. And so much funnier than CHiPs.
Exactly. There we go. There's nothing in CHiPs that's as funny as the joke that we just made.